Somebody let me know that you're here. I want to say hi. I'm going to be committed to, how shall I say, being more present. It's ironic because it's not ironic. It's wonderful. I'm seeing better. I've been using glasses that are 2/3 my prescription. These. And I use them when I walk around. 2/3 is a harmonic note. So it sounds really beautiful, and sound and light work in similar ways. So I hypothesized that rather than trying to step down my prescription, I'll find this harmonic leap. And it's amazing. I don't see clearly yet, but it's so relaxed and my eyes aren't hurting nearly as much. I just had a dream a couple nights ago that they were working. And I was staring off into the distance at some houses, and I was seeing details on the houses. I was also really happy. It transitioned into a dream in which someone was interviewing me. She was kind, younger. And she tapped into, I experienced myself who's someone who's carried a very heavy burden for a long time. And in many ways, I've believed, I've held on to the idea that it's been important to break my ego down. That the work I have to do in this lifetime, it's just beyond crucial that I not be arrogant, egoic, allow the wrong motivations to influence me. So increasingly over the years, I've been, as often as I get frustrated, I try to channel it back into a circle of I accepted this challenge, live up to it, whether or not anyone understands. And in my dream, this woman saw it, and she started, she saw me in a way that it asked questions into the space. It was like an interview, my work in the dream, and she was asking questions into a space that was, I was trying to focus on the elements of the work and what healing magic this can bring. And she was asking me about my journey, and it tapped into an emotion that I haven't acknowledged a lot. And I immediately felt this level of doubt, like people are just going to think I'm full of shit, or something. And she said, your choices make it clear who you are. It was really beautiful. Good morning. Good morning, Kinsey. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. And the welcomes, it's incredible. Your moderation plays a wonderful role for me, and I can't thank you enough. Debbie, thank you for being here. This is an incredible challenge, and I want to go through a phase of maybe a couple months, intentionally being a little looser with these classes. For one thing, I want to say hi more. So rather than I've been in my, in my zone in a way that I don't think is necessary. I'm seeing more clearly. I can read at least some of the time, and I want to engage and allow questions to inform what I'm saying and sharing so I connect better. Secondly, I'm feeling like I have so many insights that don't necessarily connect well that I need to be more patient and exploratory with like, hey, what reaches you guys? What brings you to life? What steps are necessary? Because talking about something that's over the horizon for you, it's not meant to be self-indulgent. However, I do believe I could talk about the theme today in a way that it's pretty clear this is emerging as a cultural challenge. So we're gonna get into it carefully, and maybe this could even be the groundwork for making a shorter video that's edited and available for more people. The theme of today is collective trauma. This is an immediate challenge that wakes up for anyone who begins to wake up. As soon as you start dipping beneath the levels of confusion that are yours, you start to see the levels of confusion that are shared. And it's a long-term engagement. It's a journey, learning to differentiate what is you and what isn't you. And what are you going to do about this? Are you going to try to drown it out? Are you going to engage it and try to take it all on? Can you find the right balance? Let's work to find a good balance together today. Hello, crafty trinket maker. Welcome here. I had a special insight for you. This is one of the more amazing tools. Don't think about it with the hands for a moment. It's the commitment to recognizing that we all generate our own energy and we all have the capacity to share energy. And in so many cases, the struggles, the confusion, the pain, the baggage that we bear is not actually our own, and it isn't collective. It's the product of deals we're making with other people, however unconsciously. Deals aren't necessarily deals. They're just kind of like, I agree to see you as you want to be. It's not an explicit bargain, but it ends up being a bargain. And we come from a space that desires to connect, and yet we bear whatever stories we hold and whatever karmas we share. It's an unbelievably effective tool to say, guess what? I can't and won't hold this for you, and I will not ask you to hold this for me. I will pull this back from you. I don't want my baggage to be offloaded on you in an unhealthy way. And as a result, you get this gift of being able to bounce stuff off that you can't bounce off. I can't tell you how many people are struggling in a manner that it's never going to work. You're struggling with energies that literally you didn't create it. So all you can do is kind of knead it, like kneading bread. And it's not going to rise in a beautiful way until you identify, this is not mine. As soon as you name, this is not mine, you're in a very different space of influence. And it's unbelievable how much can just evaporate like that. As soon as it's named, naming is so powerful. This is a crucial element to begin with today, and I want you to bear it in mind. Honestly and correctly identifying what is your responsibility and what is not your responsibility is beyond our mind's control. There's a truth to how karma works. And when you rest your trust in that, before you know the terms, amazing stuff happens. Amazing stuff happens. Christina, welcome. Good morning to you. Claudia, hello. Thank you for being here. So please, as I talk, keep your questions in mind. I want to keep this dialogue more conscious and intentional. And if I hit an obvious place in which you feel like there's a branch in the road and I'm over here, and you want insight about something that I just passed by, please ask the question. If you're up for it, Kinsey, it is really helpful when you repeat it in all caps if I miss it, because I can't promise to catch every message, but I really want to try to be more present and focused. So here's the thing about collective trauma. It's all around us. And the primary connection from my experience is environmental. The land holds the wounds. It doesn't just disappear because we cover it up. I promise you, and it's built in, you don't need to feel guilty about it, But rock and roll is so effective because, in particular, the drum kit and the electric amplification enables a noise that drowns out all the other noises. It's very effective. That's why it's been used so consistently. But we do seem to be coming out of it for, at least in terms of like global influence. Still rock bands everywhere. I'm not making that bad. But something is saying, hey, what if we don't want to drown out everything underneath? Now, you basically have to ask that question, because when you awaken, you gain this depth perception, right? And I like, don't worry about like, am I awake? Am I not awake? Like, people wake up in all sorts of ways. You could wake up really slowly. It doesn't have to be like, I woke up on February 2nd, 1922. It doesn't have to be that specific. Can be. Sometimes people are shocked into wakefulness, but you can also engage this intentionally. Just begin recognizing how you can perceive reality. When you gain this depth perception, at first it doesn't make sense. You just start to pick up on influences, but you don't know where they come from. That you can't see the roots. You can only see the elements that affect you. And when that happens, you can identify with something that's collective, and then identify with the suffering that's collective in a way that you think is yours, and you'll take it on like tofu takes on a flavor. Like, you would just embody it. Now, the only reason it happens so thoroughly, in my experience, is if you have a suffering that is specific to you that's worse. There's a way in which trading suffering is preferable. You can't get away from your own suffering. So if you make some degree of choice, even if it's subconscious, you're making a choice to take on someone else's suffering. It sucks. You don't like it. It can drive you to drink and whatever worse forms of addictions. I mean, sometimes it's as bad as it gets, but it can drive you to terrible habits in attempt to avoid the suffering. But on a deeper level, some part of you likes it because that suffering is better than this other suffering. There's only one way. There's only one way. And so what you do is you put this all on pause. Put it all on pause. Put understanding on pause. Put your ideas on pause. Put your stories on pause. And you hold this. Truth. Truth. There is a truth that transcends your understanding. And now you get in touch with, some people call this the monkey mind. I'm not too keen on it as a description, but the point is there's an engagement in which your mind is jumping around, and you're just jumping around trying to leap and control. Now, this is not the true nature of mind. Mind likes being effective, harmonious, and loving. It does. It is a state the mind gets into when you don't have truth at your root. And so, to whatever extent you have this monkeyish, bouncing around mind, you need to ask the question, what's it trying to avoid? What are you trying to avoid? Here is the shocking gift of collective trauma. We're all suffering from some of the same things. Already, all of us are already suffering from some of the same influences. In fact, they're very strong. And the ways in which everybody are suffering from these collective traumas is something we can engage together. So the real gift of a collective trauma is that by engaging it on purpose together, we actually get some rest. It's really shocking. It's here all the time. So when we engage it together, we get a coherence. We get a shared trust. We're doing something together, and we can rest in the knowledge that this is valuable. Now, maybe you do, and maybe you don't know people who they crusade into a specific theme. This can get to be dysfunctional because at a certain point, people can go so deeply into wanting to heal a very magnificent big problem that they become extremely aggressive with other folks because we're not as committed to that theme as they are. That's been me. I have been very, very focused on healing certain big picture themes, and I hated It felt like hatred within me that other people could ignore this pain that I have been working to heal. That's its own dysfunction. So we're setting that out from the beginning, all right? This is Scylla and Charybdis, two monsters. If you don't understand the story, just understand there are two monsters. We need to navigate between these two monsters. One monster is you identify too thoroughly with a crusade to heal a collective trauma. When you do that, you create extra hostility with people who don't join you, and you lose your sense of self so deeply that you're still out there with negative energy swirling through you that's yours, but you end up using the collective trauma work too thoroughly as a way to avoid your own stuff. That's one monster. The other monster is over here. You make loud music in your life in one form or another. You avoid the pain that's present all the time, and you avoid it in a way you're not thoroughly conscious of. So you're making decisions to pull away from the recognition of the presence of trauma, but you don't even know that's what you're doing. This is a dangerously asleep state of being. You're at best going to just bump around and flounder, but at worst, you can make some really bad choices every time you come close to recognizing what's wrong. These are two monsters. Today, we're navigating in between these two challenges. Jean, welcome. Good to see you. Yes, Debbie, I'm so glad to see that. Do I understand the weight of trying to help others understand that weight? Yes, I believe I understand your question, and I'm deeply committed to it. I've been somewhat of a crusader for the environment and for social justice, both. And, you know, you don't know. Like, I put my entire self into it. I refused to make money because I believed that the financial system itself was so tainted and was giving financial value to environmental destruction, that capitalism itself takes from the environment without paying the environment back. So it's all predicated on this initial theft that becomes abusive, because then if you start to watch that mechanism, you watch where capitalism interacts with the environment, and there's just abuses everywhere. Poisoning, polluting, and then you look at how the people who do the work are treated. It's unbelievable. And it's been this way for chains of centuries, where the most wounded people are put at the edge to do the dirty work for everybody else, to get the coal that keeps everybody's houses warm. And so there's this awful, monstrous engagement that people, they know. On a certain level, people know. And I tried so hard to be an active, healthy catalyst to stand up for these pains, for these traumas, that I started to hate. I would hate the people who wouldn't listen. I would hate the people who wouldn't change. I became a vegan, and I hated people who ate meat. And the hatred itself, was a cold burn, but I was creating it. And that was most definitely not making the world a better place. It was extremely painful for me to bump up against this edge, and I was living in this monster. I was becoming this extreme monster that I put over here, where I was so thoroughly identifying with my social justice crusades that I was generating more hostility than I was negating. I wasn't making it better. And here's the hook that got me. I finally started to learn to literally talk with Gaia. So on one level, I'd started this when I was younger and I was less capable of following my own spiritual instincts. I became a vegan. One day I walked 23 miles from Brooklyn to New Jersey. I walked across the Brooklyn Bridge, up Manhattan, across the George Washington Bridge to my house 3 miles into New Jersey. And by the end of the walk, I was going to be a vegetarian. And from that point on, I was making these choices in a way that it wasn't just me making it. I was the vanguard of the whole world changing. I didn't know how to make the change for myself. And as a result, it was questionable how much of a positive impact I was having. Now, thankfully, it was healthier for me in a multitude of ways, and I was able to eliminate my consumption of a lot of toxic, wounded, abused animals, which was much better for me. And it took a long time for me to come to peace with this dialogue where I would just ask Gaia. And she gives you a horrible answer. It's totally terrifying for anyone who identifies with social justice issues. She says, I said I'd take the pain. That's what she says. I said I'd take your pain. She forced me immediately to make it a personal conversation between me and her. And she said, you know what? You can live up to higher standards. You can own your own pain. When people don't own their own trauma, they're generating this wounded energy and they're making choices that end up abusing the earth. So you consume what you don't need. You eat meat when you're mad at your friend in order to negate the meat. You eat meat when your boss treats you like shit in order to negate the pain. And you don't have a clear vision on when it is and isn't healthy. It's terrifying to believe that you have to make decisions in there. You can't just say yes or no. But that's what she told me. You have to learn to make discrete decisions. Use it as medicine. Use it with humility. But recognize that if this house wasn't warm, I would have a very terrible winter. And right now, the only way to keep this house warm is to burn fossil fuels. I can hear the heater right now. So when I hate the fracking company that got me the gas, and I have hated fracking companies, when I hate those companies, it's a little tortured. To find this happy medium is hard. It's balance. It's a discipline that not as enthusiastic as saying, I will take down. And look, I say this identifying thoroughly with burn fossil fuels. I want it so badly. I'm just aware that if I create hatred, you know what the person who I hate does? I watched this happen so many times. I generated hatred. I would have a cold, fierce conversation with someone about eating meat. I was staring at them as if they were one of the biggest problems on the planet and they had a toxic level of no ethics. You know what they did? They went and ate a steak. And they didn't hate me. It was very hard for me to come to terms with the fact that I was hating them and they weren't hating me. And so then we circled back. And I tell you, when you start to awaken, you feel the pain of those cows in the slaughterhouses. You certainly feel the pain of those chickens and the horrible, horrible chicken farms. Industrial chicks rolling down a slide in a machine. We feel the pain of these things. It is so challenging to touch in, recognize the pain, and yet not check out. How do you not desperately want to just turn it off? As soon as you say, I'm not part of this, you get to distance yourself from it. Well, at least I'm not causing it. But the thing is, if you don't heal yourself, you are a part of it. You're generating negative energy that hurts someone else, and then they go and hurt a cow. I promise you, this is how it happens. You're generating negative energy, and you're scared, so you stay inside all day in the heat that is fueled by natural gas. So somebody went out there and they worked a 100-hour shift on a fracking rig where they do meth. Oh my God, it's so normal. It's so normal. It's normal, people. Normal. We are directly connected to these patterns. Now, I'm not telling you this to make you sad, scared, depressed. Far from it. I live with a fierce, tight light that keeps asking, what can I do that will be most effective? What can I do that will be most effective? Again and again and again. And when you can recenter in this question, you can gain an awareness that extends beyond the initial suffering. Gaia wrote this story. Gaia wrote the story with polluting fossil fuel oil rigs and factory farms. Why would she do that? Why? Rather than ask why yet, don't ask why yet. First, you have to ask, do you actually believe me? Because I promise you, this is the threshold that makes all the difference. If you can't embrace beyond this threshold, you get stuck staring at the trauma, just like tortured. And if you stare at trauma without a center that's full of love, you will embody that trauma. You'll take it on. Like tofu, you'll just on the flavor of the trauma. There's a real art to being able to stare at trauma and actually have a positive effect. And I promise you, part of healing trauma is to be able to stare at it. But again, there's two monsters. You can drown in it, you can go numb to it. How do you stay in this middle? In the middle is a voice that connects you to the earth. And when you reach down and you touch the earth, you let yourself recognize that this body is hers. She starts to tell you her story. And her story has a humor in it. Let's move this. I've got a very excited little son. Let's move this into a new perspective before we circle back. Who else is here? Janie, good to be here. Woo! Yep, the little people are getting ready to leave. So let's make this shift, all right? Look at how your body works. When we're sick, the blood system feeds blood, prana, and brings white blood cells everywhere. Now, it does more than this, but it's bringing positive food and it's bringing white blood cells to fight off disease. And it's doing something else. It's taking waste. It's taking cellular waste away. And when it takes it away, it carries it to different places that digest it. This is pretty amazing. Our arteries aren't just feeding us, and our veins aren't just bringing the blood vessels back to be rejuvenated with oxygen. They're in many ways, they're carrying poisons. This is what Gaia is doing. When we pollute the rivers, she's saying, pollute me. I will take this pain from you. She's really saying it. But underneath that, she's saying, are you still sick? Do you need to stay sick? Do you need to stay sick? Because if you need to still be sick, I will still let you live this way. But I'm asking you to heal. I am giving you the chance to heal yourself. See, I don't mean this to be a bait and switch, but it always serves you. When you engage, she's going to bring you back into yourself, and she's going to do this with you. It's impossible to separate. It's not impossible to separate collective trauma from personal trauma, but it's impossible to separate the journeys. You need to be committed to healing both. When you recognize the way in which your patterns contribute to the most toxic patterns in society, there's a humility that emerges really quick. Really quick. Self-righteousness can be a tremendous poison. And it's tough to tell the difference between self-righteousness and simply drawing the correct boundaries. It can be really hard to tell the difference. And Gaia makes use of everyone. So sometimes she takes confused, wounded people and enlists us to help draw the boundaries she really does want to be drawn. Nonetheless, I promise you that by constantly doing this and saying, what is mine? You will remove the toxins that you have been putting into the rivers. Now, this ends up being literal. This ends up being literal. Can we drive society towards heating that doesn't use fossil fuels? Yes, we can. 40% of the way there. Can we drive the automobile industry towards electric cars? Yes, we can. We're on the way there. Is it fast enough? I don't know. I'd certainly like it to be faster, but you could soberly say, what can I do to change this? Now let's look a little bit deeper, because right now I've just been addressing collective traumas that are here, on the surface, and they're still happening. What about the things from the past? There's a reason that there's more conversation about reparations for slavery in America. To some people, and I watched the YouTube Shorts debates on it, to some people, this is ridiculous. What are we going to do about it? Look, I can understand why it feels like, sort of vertigo, like I'm drowning with the idea that we have to rectify all the challenges from the past. But it is false. It is not true to believe that we can simply block out the past. The past isn't in the past. In fact, there is a very distinct difference between wounds that have healed and wounds that have not. This is not a blanket like all the bad things that happened in the past are not here. Some of them have resolved and some of them haven't. This is something that I don't personally know how to measure with machines, but I bet you we could figure out how. There is a presence of the pain from the past in many cases. And one of the ways we can tell whether that presence is here is you listen. Are people saying that it's still here? Are people of different ethnicities screaming that there's something wrong? Respect them. Listen. Now, I'm not telling you to drown in it. I'm not telling you to give up your whole life and go be a social justice warrior for exactly the cause that you hear. But there's a difference between giving up everything and drowning in it and being able to hear when someone says, I feel it. I experience the pain of this. One of the most telling moments of my life is when a Native American shaman, who I worked with for quite a while, sat with me around the last fire we sat together. We sat around more fires than I can remember. And the last fire I sat around with him, he showed me how to put it out. He showed me how to put it out in a more ceremonial manner than I'd ever seen. It was tremendously impacting. We did it step by step by step, and each step was a prayer. And as we did each step, he went into this like rage. And he's praying to Great Spirit as he's putting the fire out, and like, allow Daniel to understand that my ancestors were here. They are here now, and I feel their presence. Let him witness this. Allow him to learn how to trust that they can teach him what he needs to survive. But he has to see these. These are the people who are the children of the children who killed my family. My premise was that I couldn't have seen that unless it was real. It's still there. It was my job to witness him in love. And the first step is to be able to witness with eyes of love and compassion. It's almost an indulgence to flip into guilt and say, okay, I'm going to make it better. How the fuck are you going to make it better? Don't do that yet. If you witness with eyes of love, sometimes that alone is part of the healing. It's always part of the healing. But it may even be enough in any given instance. And from there you say, what more need I do? The reason people are talking about reparations is because there's something to repair. There's something to repair. Many people came to this country in one way, and other people came in another way. We need to repair that. There are a lot of things to repair. The reality is that it isn't as simple as racial at all. Many white people came as indentured servants. They were brought here as pseudo-slaves. The entire slavery dynamic in the United States was generated in order to create the class system going. So the wealthiest, cruelest people said, we're going to have slaves and we're going to treat them like absolute shit. Now, you other indentured servants, don't get out of line or we'll knock you down to their level. You better consider yourself lucky that you're not as bad off as them. But they had it pretty fucking bad. And those are Trump's people. People that are called undesirable. They're called all sorts of awful names. One of the leading Democratic candidates called them what? Something, a cesspit of undesirables. Those are the children of the children of the children of the poorest white servants who came to the United States. They've been suffering the entire time. There's something broken there that needs to be repaired. You begin to see these things in every direction. In every direction, you see stories. And these stories are more influential than we know. Our heritage is something that we can't quite escape. It doesn't mean it defines you, but you have to do something with it. We follow in the steps of our ancestry, and that cannot be broken. But you can own it and say, what can I do? Collective trauma leads through our families. Our relationship to collective trauma goes through our heritage. But here is where it starts to get interesting. Now, please, deplorable, exactly, basket of deplorables. I'm going to stick on that point a little. And please, I set the commitment to reference your comments more. So if anybody has questions along the way with what I'm asking, help me stay focused. This is big. These are big themes, and I'm trying to address it in a way that is effectively healthy and supportive in just 1 hour. So to the extent you can help me focus, I'm going to reference this. Deplorables. Hillary Clinton called Trump's people a basket of deplorables. Is it any wonder they hate? Now, I don't particularly identify. I don't like many people who consider themselves followers of this person, Trump. And I care. I care about the dynamics that created the system it is. And the fact of the matter is, pretty universally, they're the product of an abusive culture that abused them also. It pushed them out. They got pushed out of their communities into the less desirable places to live also. Poor whites and poor African Americans have very similar cultural patterns. The crack epidemic and the Oxycontin epidemic are pretty similar. And now we're on into meth, and they're coping with these pains more than anybody else. When you look at the fringes of society, what you see is stories that are impossible for a mainstream mind to bear. And I say that coming from, I live in one of the most privileged places on the planet. And I was raised surrounded by friends. By the end of my high school years, I had like 50 friends who all reflected pretty similar social patterns to me, pretty similar upbringing. And so I was incubated. And when I went out into the world, I've lived in urban, low-income urban communities, some, had friends there that I visited often and lived there, some. And I've lived in rural communities, some, and visited often. When you literally put yourself in a place where you hear coyotes at night, your consciousness changes. How many of you hear coyotes at night? Seriously. Somebody tell me if you hear coyotes at night. I'd really be, and say it in the comments, because we get a lot more people watching in the reviews. Tell us, do you ever hear coyotes at night where you live? It is an entirely different lifestyle. Thank you, Upward Spiral. Thank you, Crafty Trinket Maker. Reflect with this. It's an entirely different mind. You think differently when you hear coyotes at night. My experience, partly because I'm so psychic, is that when I live in rural communities, I am aware of the pain within miles. Within miles, I hear the stories, the negative stories that are happening. It's frightening. It's easier to hear because there's more distance. So it's like each story, each house has a little more isolation. And as a result, it's frighteningly easier to tune in to what's happening psychically. But it's true in urban communities too. I lived in East Oakland, When you stay surrounded by people who are all part of a different demographic, where everyone's suffering on a certain level, the pain is just, it's unbearable. You only get the news stories about the worst breakdowns, but day to day, the suffering that goes on in families, beyond unacceptable. Beyond unacceptable. I'm not even going to name it. It's anything you could think of. The reason people do so many drugs and of high caliber, meth, amphetamines of pharmaceutical sort, on and on. They're avoiding pain. They're avoiding the screaming traumas in their head. But the point here is that these traumas trace back to the collective traumas that we all have to own. They do. When you get in touch, when you're at the edge of a collective trauma, you're near a massacre. If you live near a place where Native Americans were massacred, it's still screaming. That is not an easy one to heal. That can live for hundreds of years. You live near that, but we live in a culture that completely ignores it. But you live near it, but we're ignoring it, but you live near it. So you've got this buffer because the entire reality you're living in says this, it's just land, they're just rocks. They're not just fucking rocks. There's poison in the fabric of the soil, the trees. Everything that grows there bears some of that. And so you live near the edge of it, and it starts to seep into your psyche, and it starts to influence how you behave. Now, here's the thing. I promise you, the moment you identify what it is, something very different happens. The moment you identify that the negative force that you're gripping with, wrestling with, isn't you, that you are literally connected to something that's happened here. It's in the land. The second you make that naming, you get a little distance. It's ironic. You get closer because you see it and you have to think about it, but you get distance because you know what you are and you know what that is. Until you know what that is and what you are, you can't tell the fucking difference. And you live in this bullshit paradigm where everything's you. Everything you can sense is you before you awaken. You're all psychic. Don't tell, I might be psychic. Oh my God, I am psychic. Everybody's psychic. It's just haphazard. Okay? You sense things, and I promise you, some of what you're sensing isn't you. Some of what you sense is the other people in your house. Some of what you sense are the residents of your community, and some of what you sense is the residents in the land. Until you differentiate what's what, you bear all that suffering as if it's your own, and we all develop coping mechanisms. But we share some of the same coping mechanisms because we don't know what the hell else to do. We burn it. We burn it with the black. We burn fossil fuel to deal with a ton of it. Now, look, this is simple. My goodness, do I hope it connects. Every single way in which we lead a different kind of lifestyle than people 200 years ago distances us from their psyche. Nobody had an oil burning furnace 200 years ago. I think that's true. Nobody had electricity running through every room in the house. Nobody had electric lights at night. When you live within these patterns, you differentiate yourself. You put yourself in a different psychic state from the memories. So this is a distancing mechanism as much as it's functional. The reason people stay up late when it's not good for you is because when the lights go out and you turn the heat down and you slow yourself down, that's the zone in which it's the liminal space. You start to become more aware of the presence of all these things you're avoiding. So you stay up later and later and later to drown it out until you're broken and exhausted. Why would you do that to yourself? Because it's the best coping mechanism you have. But here's the thing. Wounds want to heal. Wounds want to heal. When you become a servant to this earth, you immediately get told to take care of your body. As soon as you get told to take care of your body, you start to say, look, I don't want to stay up so late. I don't want to look at these lights in the dark. My head's hurting. I got to turn my phone off earlier. I've got to stop watching the screen. As soon as you start to say that, you're actually taking care of the earth. You're taking care of your body. And all you need to do is say, show me. Show me what service you need from me beyond this. Show me. Show me what service you need for me to address the bigger problems. You can't take all of them on yourself. You can't take personal responsibility for everything that you begin to notice. It's not possible. And many people who begin to awaken try. God bless his living soul. Did you watch any Bernie Sanders speeches? He lists every single major social ill. We're defending this, and we're defending this, and we're defending this, and we're defending this. I agree word for word. But the way it's held has to be conscious of your sanity. If you're going to stay in this for the long haul, you have to keep retreating into yourself and say, what's really going to work? Oh my God, there's an art to facing traumas. Traumas don't just change because you tell them to. There's an art. And this dialogue becomes, you begin to recognize if someone steps into your life and talks about a trauma, maybe you're being asked to pay attention to this trauma. You start to recognize the dialogue that the earth is bringing to your door, and you trust it. In this dialogue, you're going to start to watch yourself. What's your reaction when you start to hear about a major trauma from the past? What do? It matters. It matters. What do? Well, that is another reason, Kinsey. And as do I. And so often I stay up in the night, and part of the reason it's so effective is because I'm not afraid of what I might see or sense. I mean, I am, but I'm not. There's a pattern in our neurochemistry where if we face a threat, we get these positive reinforcements. You get a dopamine burst, you get a certain kind of like adrenaline presence that like puts you at a state where you're ready to act. But it can be low level enough that you just feel kind of good and strong. When you commit to facing the forces that have been negatively impacting you, it's good for your health. And now I'm just urging this restraint in it. You just keep asking. I swear to you, you keep recentering and asking what's actually going to be most effective. What are you actually asking of me, Gaia? It is stunning. You know what she does to me? This. She says, do this. And, I don't always put it down completely. But I have a relatively decent gauge of I invested what she asked me to invest in this. I communicated this to 100, 200 people. Some of them turned away, but look, even when someone's not paying attention, they came closer. It's a blessing. It's an influence. I did something, and now I'm drawn to a new challenge, and I trust this cycle for me. This is my particular calling in my vehicle. I have more of a broad scale to address. It is my psychic gift to be aware of most of the major problems within range of me. And it's stunning how much more peaceful my life is than it used to be. I'm not making any claims to perfection or some abstract version of enlightenment, though by some definitions, that's exactly what we're doing here. We're enlightening. And when you enlighten, you bring light into the darkness. You bring light into the spaces that are wounded and sick. It doesn't guarantee you that everything's going to be happy, but at least you're seeing honestly now. It's so tempting to just keep it all shrouded in black. Sometimes when my son's doing something dangerous, I close my eyes because I just can't bear it. But overall, you got to keep your eyes open. When you keep your eyes open, you don't have to keep staring at the worst things. You just have to stop being afraid that you'll see them, because there's so much beauty. This is where this goes. There's so much beauty. And it is present. It fucking sucks to learn to see the loving beauty in this world, because at the same time you learn to see the beauty, you see the 5 places around you where that beauty has been abused. It hurts. It hurts more. It hurts more. You start to see with these eyes of love, and I cannot make my peace with roads. I walk down the sidewalk and I look up a little, and you look up and you see some trees, right? You see the tree line, and just start to imagine what it was like before the roads were here. And it's painful. It starts to feel like an abuse on the lands, because in so many ways it is. At the least, do we have to make them all square, these brutal straight lines everywhere? But you don't have to drown in that. You see it, you breathe, and you come around the corner and notice where someone donated their house to make a little public park. Someone did that right around the corner from me. They donated their house to make a public park. And I think it was actually the yard associated with an old house, but it's a substantial space. And there's a brick area, and there's a bench, and there's some beautiful trees. They didn't have to do that. I see that also. And the beauty of recognizing that can outweigh the pain of all these other things. It's dicey. It's like an ongoing daily dance. I'm dancing from one positive to another. And you have to. You have to be willing to see through the pains in order to rest in these deeper gifts. But I feel connected to that choice. I feel connected to the people who made that little park. And they come back. Somebody comes back and keeps it up. I wonder how that works. It's really amazing. Did they give an endowment to it? Like, who takes care of that little space? But I can sit on that bench, and my daughter the other day, and she pulled herself up and we sat there. It was a beautiful little sanctuary right around the corner from us. I didn't know it was there for a while. Well, here's the thing, Kinsey, and I don't want to speak like a complete authority on this, but one of the first lessons, I can just tell you what I do. One of the first lessons I learned when I was waking up, I was in a shocked space. I was shocked to wakefulness. And I was in a poker game in New York City, 35 floors up. I'd been playing poker for 2 years they were lawyers and accountants. And, I think I lost a little more than I won, but I did okay. And I was starting to just completely not give a shit. And one day I just got this different vision. And I promise this is relevant to what I just saw in your statement. One day I saw this different vision, and I just dropped into a space where I'm like, these people are supposedly my friends, and they all want me to lose. This fucking sucks. They all want to take my money from me. Where the fuck am I? And I took all my money out of my wallet and I threw it into the pile, and I left the table. It's pretty funny. And I went to the window, and I'm looking out this. I remember it as 35. I was way up there, and I'm looking out the window, and something started to talk to me. And this had not happened to me much. I'd gotten dozens of messages that were like 2 sentences, and I had cherished them, like my spiritual guidance. All of a sudden, I'm getting a conversation. It was scary. And the conversation started to show me pain. I looked across at this other building, and I just started imagining all the different things that happened there. And I didn't realize it, but I was being taught how to be at peace with having psychic awareness. And I was just scanning this building, and there's this giant building right across from me. There are hundreds of people living there. And I'm like, holy fuck, they're not all okay. they're suffering, they're suffering, they're suffering, they're suffering. And I swear to you, and I don't mean to be crude or inappropriate, but the voice goes, yeah, but they're having sex over there. And I was like, really? So it's teaching me to see this breadth, see this range. If you vortex in on the pain and the evil, you're missing the point. You have to be able to take it all in, and then you say, what can I do? And I couldn't I was like fighting with them. They're like, watch it. They caught my attention on a place where there was a fight. And I didn't know whether to believe it, but I'm like, there, my attention was being drawn. There's a fight there. There's fight energy in that place. And so I was staring at it and I started to feel the pain of it. And I was like going into anguish, like drowning and like choking, like, oh, I got to do something. And the voice is like, just watch. And I couldn't bear it. I'm like, how do you fucking want me to just watch that? They're like, just watch. And then they pulled my attention away. They said, enough. And it was unfathomable to me for years. But my mind just kept going back to this lesson over and over and over again. They keep saying the same thing. When you watch with eyes of love, with compassion, you're not choosing sides. You're not saying this person's evil, this person's good. Sometimes it's kind of true that that's the case, but that's not what I was being asked to do. I was being asked to watch the violence and see with eyes of love and pray for both of them. And then they said, enough, that's all you can take. I started to drown in it. I started to go so deep that I was sapped. I was losing myself. And they're like, that doesn't help. Since then, for years, I just went around like this, seeing things everywhere, seeing things here, seeing things there. And it's always this pause. If I leave you with one thing today, it's the pause, okay? In order to see deeper pain, you have to be able to pause and then say, what is being asked of me? Now, if you just vortex on the pain's going to say, protect me, help me, heal me, stay with me. You have to do a deeper connection to the earth herself. The earth is all of this, but her heart will say, what are you? What is she asking you to be? And sometimes they ask you to stay and you work in a soup kitchen for a day or a week. Sometimes they ask you to stand up for someone who's getting hurt, which I've done. Sometimes they say, step around that. See it with eyes of love. But you got to ask yourself, what can you say that will actually make it better? Sometimes there aren't words that will make it better. Sometimes there are. You know, this isn't a Game of Thrones melee where we get to dump hot gold over the head of the asshole. Like, that didn't make the world better. You know, glorifying defeating someone. I promise you this. I promise you this. In the pause, you must learn to feel compassion for the worst people. It's only your compassion that will reach them. Compassion is different than empathy. It doesn't mean drown in them. It doesn't mean identify with them. And it doesn't mean give them too many chances because they might do whatever they're doing again. No. But it does mean care. Just care about them as a human being. Because when you see them with eyes of love, that's the best chance you've got to spark some love. And then what you say will stem from there. Well, I've said some fierce things that put people in their place, but I didn't try to. You know, I wasn't sitting there scripting it until I walked up to them and said it. I was just present. And sometimes my words were effective. I never got hit. Like, you know, it's rather remarkable. I did by a friend once. When you pause and pray for what you can do that actually will be most effective, you get this incredible surrender. It only works if you surrender. You get this incredible surrender into, like, you're living on an edge where you might redesign your life on this event. It might affect you I'm telling you stories. I could tell you another 20 that stayed with me for so long because I'm going straight up to the edge of these like extraordinary traumas. And I'm saying, what can I do? And so often they say, see with eyes of love, be present and feel it. Okay, turn now, walk away. It's time to walk away now. Time to leave. Because you can drown in it too. Yes. And the thing is, you're not being asked to bleed love. Reiki is the art of passing love through you. So there is this, you can feel it. When you do a Reiki 1 training, I encourage everybody to do a Reiki 1 training. Really, it's a weekend. You can find someone almost anywhere. Use your discretion, but you can find someone in almost any community that will train you. I found someone in rural South Dakota. Like I did a session on someone in South Dakota, and they found someone the town over who did a Reiki training for them. You do a Reiki training and you learn to feel what it is to channel love through you. And so it's important that you're able to draw on love from the world. So you're not feeding like what you need for the day for your family. And you allow this love to flow through you, and there's a completion. There's a completion that is a measure of how much is needed and how much can you contain? How much can you afford to allow to move through you? Because I promise you, you can fry your circuits too. And you won't if you abide by the guidance of a Reiki training, which says, pass this love through me. I see with eyes of love. This love is universal love from the world. I am part of the world. I serve in this moment. Leave. Okay, I'm leaving. And you step away. Well, sarcasm makes some boundaries in a good way. I'm going to be back in a moment to do some readings. I will appreciate any super gifts, donations that you have. I believe it works. Someone let me know if it doesn't. I think it should be available. I'm grateful for it. And a slightly different tone this time. I'll introduce you in a couple of minutes. Hey, welcome back to me, Smith. Thank you so much. CA. Oh, Canadian, right? Goodness gracious. I do love Canada. It's remarkable to me how many people from Canada show up here. I think the love gets through. I don't mean to just make you my backup plan for global warming. I love this for real. Canada's super amazing. Here we go. This week's weekly witness is going to be I'm going to phrase this better by the end, but basically, what are you working on in your life right now? I've been having an extraordinary time using the chakra keys more effectively. And so this is what the courses are about. I strongly encourage you to consider taking the first course, which leads into the second course if it appeals to you. They teach you how to apply chakra magic daily and end up making intentions to heal or empower superpowers and healing dysfunctions, and to weave this into your life as a normal part of your life where you're always keeping this open vision about what needs extra attention, and then you're applying that to your spiritual practice. The more effectively I communicate it in the courses and in these classes, the more effective it is for me. And I want to make this an ongoing thing for everyone. You don't need to take the courses to start this. I do encourage you to associate it with the chakra. What is a theme that you're choosing to tackle, either to heal a dysfunction or enliven a superpower? This is the weekly witness question, and I'd love to make it normal. People, the reason I said weekly witness is when you are witnessed regularly, weekly, it makes it more real. Even if you don't want to talk about it, even if you don't want to generate dialogue, just being seen makes it more real. In the same way that being able to witness pain and trauma with eyes of love can be very healing, witnessing your intentions, your joy, prayers can be very empowering, loving, make them work. So please consider sharing that in the weekly witness. And if you so choose, allow my reading to be a catalyst. I am honored. If I read you, I give you a focus that I believe would be good for you, and you carry that out. You track it, follow it, work with it. It'll be far more effective in your life if you do. If you happen to go to somewhere else and you say, I think I'd like to focus here, that's great too. No offense taken. So let's see how this can go. All right, readings. Let me know who's first when you're ready. And I'm gonna take a little sip. I want to give a preamble here. I can't say this enough. When you see someone suffering, particularly someone you love, someone in your life, I invite you to develop the just discipline habit to do these. And what you're doing is you're saying, how could any of my drama be wrapped up in destabilizing them? You're not taking full blame for everything that's happening to them, but you are taking full responsibility for anything that's your own. Don't use your head. I'm promising you, don't use your head, because everybody that I know spends time writing stories about it's my fault that someone else is in pain. It's my fault that they're. I'm not. Don't do that. This is energetic. You are saying, you are owning the intention to withdraw any negative energy from their equation. And amazing things can happen when you do that. So I'm going to encourage all of you to take this very seriously and to begin to use it as, like, I swear you can, every week you need to reinforce this. It's important. When you do this, you're saying, I own my responsibility for my energy. When you do that, you can turn around and then ask for help. Saying help me is very different from saying, let's make an unconscious deal where you bear my anxiety so I don't feel anxious. You get me? All right. Janie first. So it looks to me like you have something in your third eye that's whoa, stuck. As soon as I tune into it, it does release, so you're not addicted to it. And then you need to draw your attention down to your nose tip, then your throat. So your throat has some trapped passion in it. You're not expressing your passionate love or your passionate anger. You've shut it all down. And that does come from a space of you're not taking care of yourself properly. And the energy you need to be using to take care of yourself more effectively is wrapped up in what I got was you're whistling at the wind, which means you're trying to oppose the wind in your life. And you're positioning yourself against it, and so you're trying to blow back at the wind, and you're not going to win. So I'm going to invite you to take a really strong look at ways in which you might be fighting things that you really can't change, rather than accepting the things you can change. And the things you can change are the basic patterns of your life. And it seems to me that you're kind of hard on yourself for not taking better care of yourself. But rather than being hard on yourself, just circle in and be like, what steps can you take, Janie, to take better care of yourself this week? I'm going to leave that with you as a question. What steps can you take better basic care of yourself this week? Focusing on your nose tip, breathing here often, and using this as a meditation. Just how can I take better care of myself this week? And you breathe here to help focus you here. And it's like Rudolph leading you through a light in the darkness. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you so much. Janie first. I saw Janie first. Okay, I can't see all that. Who's next? If anyone is. Okay, Debbie next. So first I see your root. It's like you're a big tree and you're walking around as an acorn. um, what I get is you're afraid to root yourself because if you take on more power, you're going to have a chaotic impact. You're going to really stir things up in a way that scares you. It's overwhelming for you. You have a history of this happening, and third eye, you don't know how to incorporate it. Part of you, there's a wildness that wants to be a cyclone, that kind of likes it, that feels empowered by it. And another part of you is horrified that you like it. And it's all so confusing that you tend to sabotage success, which is really just sabotaging rooting. As soon as you root, you need to trust that the reason it's effective, Debbie, is because you are channeling the energy of the earth. So you can make prayers for how those around you are impacted. Pray that unconditional love guides this. You need to root. It wouldn't work if you weren't a servant of the earth. It wouldn't work if you weren't channeling what you're being asked to channel. No, don't take malevolent glee in that the power. That's coming from a space of insecurity. But don't be horrified that you have that thought either. It's understandable. It's been a long road. You're sick of not feeling your full impact. Root. You need to root. You need to trust that it's time to root. Grounding flower yoga, basic touching earth. I stood on the ice barefoot for a couple minutes this morning to see the sun. You could get out there and touch the earth, if limits are, but touch the ground, breathe the air. Get outside early in the day. Everybody should. I encourage everybody to get outside for a couple minutes early, but you really need it, Debbie. Let yourself feel the earth and let yourself, there's a franticness, you're afraid of staying still and rooting. You need to work on that, and it's going to take a couple months, but it's really cool, and I'm happy to please come back and talk to us about it. Saint of spades. Thank you so much. I don't know what that equates to, but that's a big number. Thank you so much, Erica. You're welcome, Debbie. Sarah. And which Sarah is this? It does matter. I mean, the reading will work either way. Oh, well. Sarah. Oh, what an interesting reading. So you have been mind-numbingly patient. And it looks to me like you're kind of sick of it, and this is a good sign. The fact that you're sick of being patient in this way is a sign that something changing. I encourage you, all this third eye energy, it's stuck in your mind. Like you need to change your vision to start to see deeper. I think this is probably a very powerful day for you, a powerful class for you, because it looks to me like you've been patient in a way that has opened space to change your relationship to the world dramatically. There's still some waiting before some of the parts you want. Like you see into the future enough to know that some good things are coming. There's still a window there, but it's a new phase. There's still space. It's not yet. Next November, some really good stuff is coming through for you. There's still space until then. You need to deepen it. Your heart is focused in the right way, and it needs more depth. So love is winning in your heart, but it needs more depth. So you need to trust your love to deepen itself. Throat. There's a real chokehold there. It's not a choke, it's just too tight. So you need a bigger avenue of expression. You need to start thinking about communicating more. It's not a mission yet. You just need to practice. Like practice. What kind of artist are you? Wow, yeah, you've really been too held back communicating. So, what forms of communication work for you? And an emphasis on like, do you have art in you that needs to be expressed that isn't getting through? Whoa, it's a lot. It's a lot. There's a backlog there, Sarah. Um, all the way into the spring, I'd encourage you to just give your space room to practice, to explore. You're not trying to sell anything to make a new career. You're trying to give yourself your voice back. You kind of have to own it, and you need freedom with that at first. Like, don't try to structure it too quickly. There, that's better. That's better. All the way into May. Like, don't even worry. Like, for instance, if you were to write a new song, don't try to sing it for everybody for months. Just sing it. Be with it. Let it be medicine for you. Draw a beautiful painting. Don't rush to put it on Instagram at all. Like, keep it for you. But you need to open this channel. Practice it. In the future, it'll make more sense how to share. Throat, art focus. Christina. Wow. Um, so it looks to me like something's coming through your diamond eye, like you have a mystical calling in it. And I'm trying to differentiate whether I'm just reading you through the what I've said already. I want to make sure I don't just plug you into it. Let's look a little down. So there's something intense and sort of dark coming through your dreams. You're either not aware of your dreams or there've been some baggage in it. Like Not quite. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if you've had nightmares. Lungs, lungs. They're just unfocused. So it looks to me like you consider projects and initiatives a lot and you go really deep into them and then it's just overwhelming and then you're almost like, what the hell was that? Like it doesn't even make sense that I thought of that. And it's not woven in. But there's a lot of strength and potential here. Need more perspective still. Chin, trust. So you're actually really strong in trust. Like you know how to go into different sort of trance states. You're changing your consciousness fairly significantly. And I think you need to respect that. We can respect it for you. I see you, Christina. You're changing a lot. You're exploring. You're exploring a lot, and it's really special. It's amazing. Even on making commitments, like learn to try things on. But if you could educate yourself, practice. This is what spiritual practice is for. Practice not committing in the moment, because it looks to me like all of a sudden you're in the middle of a war zone and you're going to defeat the enemy. And all of a sudden you're in the middle of an impoverished zone and you're going to be Mother Teresa and feed everybody. Like you're going too deep. And if you can reclaim a sense of restraint, like, whoa, this is intense. Look at where I am. I can feel the pull to heal this entire problem. Pause. I really do think this is the medicine for you this week. Pause. What is truly being asked of you in this moment? And put it in your lungs. Breathe in your lungs. I'd really encourage you to focus on your lungs. A lot of deep breathing. The sniffing breath for the lungs is a good break. Cleanse yourself here. It's just a mess. You've thought of doing so many different things. It's a little confusing, but there's a vibrancy here. Like I am very excited to see what you're doing in a year. Give it some time. Even a little more than a year. Don't presume that you're going to get all the answers for even a little more than a year. I don't mean to dampen your enthusiasm. I just want to help you focus. You've got a lot of power and potential here, but it's a long journey. You got to learn to, dare I say, master this. Like you need to learn to channel it and focus it. It's a real gift you're working with. And just hearing that, it looks to me like is impacting. So bless you, bless you, bless you. It's really amazing. Work with your lungs. Just think about cleaning up a messy house. You gotta sort through and bring some order here, and you can do it through exercise and breathing at first for a while. It would be very impacting. Claudia, thank you so much. It's a real gift. I appreciate your appreciation greatly. Oh my goodness, definitely. Thank you, Janie, for thanking her. All right, Erica next. It looks to me, first of all, this is just going to move something out of the way. You've been worried about the big picture too much. It's going to be okay, including your government. It's going to be okay. Just you need to ask yourself, when you feel fear and overwhelm of the like big picture stories, bring yourself into this pause and say, what can you do that's actually going to be healthy? I'm not a believer in always blocking out the news because it's depressing. I think it's important to have some awareness of what's happening in the world. And it's important to pause and say, what can you do that's really going to support this? And there we are in your heart. Holy shit, I would not want to get in a fight with you. It looks to me like you have been ready to take down some of the worst forces with this just like fierce passion. And you need to chill this out. There might be a real need for that fierce fire, but you got to be able to contain it. You know how to contain it, but you got to be able to know when. All right, I'm getting ahead of myself. There's a lot of red in your heart. And your throat looks like it's very ready to open. It's been held back, but it's ready to change. I'm not going to tell you how. I'm not even going to encourage you. You know, but you need to open your throat chakra more. And then your navel. So your navel needs attention. So this is where I think you can make the most positivity. You've neutralized too much about yourself. So it's like you have you need to do core work. I put up this core yoga routine on Wild Chakra Yoga. I linked it in the community feed on the Wildflowerfire channel. I'd really encourage you to try it out. You need to process this energy in your core. You need to process it more. It looks to me like your mind is running ahead trying to figure things out, but you got to build your core a little more first. You've got enough strength there, but it's like it's not processed. That's enough. That's just simple, straightforward work, and I really encourage you to it. I think you're going to love it. I think you're going to love it. There's a morning yoga routine over there too, which I think you guys would. I'm so pleased with it. It changes my life. These routines, I'm really excited to get them out there because this is what I do to take care of myself. It's incredible how well it's working. All right, Christopher. So it looks to me like you have within your range some mean, funny people. They're funny in a way that's just, it's not okay. And I swear to you, I tuned into this and all I got was, you need me to say, they're not really funny. That's all you have to say. It looks to me like you've really struggled with how to respond to this force. And you could struggle less. You could just differentiate. Like, use that behavior as cause they lose you, man. Just disengage. They're not nice. I'm not going to name names, but it looks like there's like, it wouldn't surprise me if you've been watching the wrong YouTube videos or something. Like, they're not. No, that kind of strength is on its way out. It's waning, and they're ultimately scared, and they're mocking and fighting to try to preserve themselves. It's a particular kind of masculinity, and I think, man, you've got a strength to you that is just, yep. Your navel is really there's a beam into it that you need to kind of like pull out like a taproot. But your strength is just really vibrant and present. I once took I think oh gosh, what's it called? Honeysuckle. There was a honeysuckle bush wrapped around a birch tree, and it looked pretty, but it was killing the birch tree. And I killed the honeysuckle because it was killing the birch. The honeysuckle was a parasite on the birch. It didn't need to be there, and it was literally wrapping its way around. And they weren't going to both survive. You're the birch tree, dude. There's a bit of a force sapping your strength, and you need to pull it out. It's not, this is well within your means to do it. It's going to take some discipline, but identify what it is and say no. It's in your navel. Do this. Core work would be great for you too, in a different way. You're already like, you don't have a lot to process, but you just need to remind yourself, you're the birch. You're not the birch and the honeysuckle. It's almost like you've identified with the birch and the honeysuckle, and you have to just realize you're not the honeysuckle. You have to pull this sucking thing off of you. Whew, it kind of pisses me off just to tune into it. Pisses me off for you, kind of like I feel a little protective, like, ah. Man, that's all through the navel. What else is going on here? Chin. Trust this. Trust this. Trust this. It looks like you doubt. Like you doubt it. It's like you're there about ready to cut it off, and you're like, oh no, I don't know if I should do this. Maybe I shouldn't do this. You have to develop your own relationship. You have to have your own trust. Like, if you can't do it because I told you to. But tune in. Is this true? Does this feel true to you now? Can you find what it feels like when you think about this on Friday? You know how to trust this change, and it is a big change. And it involves some communication. It's not as simple as just not watching YouTube videos. You have to say no to some choices, some people even. But you don't have to say much. Just like they lose you if they behave in certain ways. Strong encouragement. Sometimes you have to like make a speech or make an explanation, but it doesn't look to me like they're going to really understand. So you just have to be like, I don't want to be a part of that. It's not cowardly not to stay on their turf and fight with them. I think I'm taking this in the right way. Like sometimes walking away, it's not cowardly. You don't want to be there. Like, so you don't need to win a game on their turf in order to prove yourself before you leave. Just leave. And somehow that metaphor works with the cutting the honeysuckle plant. Forgive me if this is complicated. It's coming right through though in this way. I encourage you to, well, no, I mean, the core work would be great, but focus on saying no when you need to say no. You know when you need to say no. Focus on it. Be a little disciplined about it. It's a bit confusing, but you're going to feel the benefits fairly quickly. Gene, this hammer, Gene, it's still there, man. Oh no, forgive me. That's with Christopher still. It's still like an intense force. Let me be more distinct. There are some people near you, Gene, that you can have real connection with that you're not connecting with. I would encourage root chakra. Your root is ready to spread a little bit more. I would encourage, it looks to me like you have rules that are getting in the way. Just seek more real connection. In every instance, you could say, what's a real connection? You know, yesterday I went in and I was kind, and for the first time in 10 years, I introduced myself to one of the people who serves me coffee, and she remembered my name, and I said thank you, and she gave me 2 croissants. Like, that's real, you know, it's just kind. Like, I bought 1 croissant, she gave me 2. Like, be real and smile for no purpose. You're not getting anything. You're just being present, and it's loving. And you don't need to measure people as if they agree with you politically or agree with you spiritually, or there's no hierarchies to this. There's no purpose that you're gaining. Just you be real and keep your eyes open for it. Keep your head up for it. Where's a chance to just smile and say hi? Believe it or not, I think you need this more than anything else. Yep. You know how this is something you've done more in the past, and maybe it's been on pause. Might be even be as simple as COVID kind of took the wind out of your sails in this way. You know how to surrender. It's in your chin. You know how to trust this. And then your lungs. And your lungs are kind of like a little bit of a vague. Like you've been very focused on what your plans are and what your decisions are. And they aren't clear. And it is weighing you down a little, but it's not your biggest problem, and you've been taking too much attention there. Focus on your root, do rooted things, and find ways to connect within your community, because there are people around you within range of you who actually would like to have longer conversations, and you know how to hold space for it. Hold space to be present and be real. It's a gift to you as well. Oh, you're a little afraid that they get too close and that you don't have the best boundaries, but just commit to drawing the right boundaries. I think you need me to add, like, if you ever feel uncomfortable that someone's talking to you longer than you want to, just find a gracious way to say, hey, thank you so much. I've really appreciated this time. I'm sorry to say I need to go, and I have a commitment now. That's all you have to say. That's all you have to say. And the commitment might be to yourself to go on a walk. You don't have to explain yourself. It seems to me you need to know that because you do have the potential to connect very deeply with people. And I promise you, you can do this in a way that's worth it and that enlivens your day, enlivens your days. Nature, nature. Huh. There's a split in your lungs. Hey, this is cool. This is progress. It really is. You created better boundaries, and you're still kind of on the lookout to defend yourself, but you're not currently really under threat. You are in a position where you can be more generally loving around you right now. Wow, this split is right up your so then it's in your throat too, and wow, there's some pain you got to communicate through your throat. Now you know me, and I know you. I want you to sing. Here's the thing, though. All right, I'm a big believer in singing sad songs only when it's time. I want you to sing some of these feelings out with the intention of stopping. Don't keep singing it. Move on to sing songs about a beautiful day when it's time. Someone who's as wonderful a singer as you can kind of get trapped singing other people's pain too much. I just want you to sing some of your own. Move through it. It's not, maybe it's a performance, maybe it's not. Maybe it's something you performed 3 times, but don't worry about catching it and selling it. But use your art. You're not using your art to help yourself heal. It's really important. There you go. It's in your vision. Okay, so your third eye is really ready for this paradigm. You've heard my story about Kurt Cobain, right? He taught me these. You got to feed yourself your medicine first. This is really important for you. You got to feed yourself your medicine. Don't listen to voices telling you you're amazing. You are. Don't listen to voices telling you you got to perform in front of 20,000 people. I'd love to listen. You need to feed yourself. Give your medicine to yourself. You can't even begin to see who you're going to be in 2 years. But take care of yourself. You're not using your art to take care of you. It's love. It's love. And there you go. You can use your art to help take care of other people, but you got to do it for yourself first. That's enough. Throat, you need to sing. Don't you oh my god, I'm going to be so mean. Don't you dare come back unless you've sung at least once for 3 songs at the level you know your true passion. Nobody has to be listening. You don't have to record it. But 20 minutes at least. I want you to do that at least 3 times a week, damn it. But at least once, all right? 3 songs, deep, full, present. That's your homework. You need it. It's for you. It's to help yourself heal. Kinsey. The Artist's Way. Do you have that book? I haven't used it, but it occurs to me that you could. Huh. Wow. Yeah. I there's an automatic writing practice in there that I've heard about repeatedly, which I'd really encourage you to consider, where you just get up and you write. I think it's 3 pages. You just write 3 pages, anything. You're just writing your feelings, your thoughts, your dreams, anything. Just do it. And it's the art of getting art to flow through you. You're getting energy to flow through you. And it looks to me like you could really use that. Your throat, whoa, your throat really really likes that. My goodness. Your throat really, really likes that. Now, I personally, I do it freestyling. Like I record a lot of freestyling. I could do it for an hour. I almost never share it anymore. It's just, it's an art. It's really healthy. Any practice in which you're allowing life to flow through you in this way. So you could record and record and record and delete it. You could write and write and write and burn it, but get that flow going and don't even worry about what you capture yet. The premise is what's good will stay. You're clearing the static to create space for a greater depth. And then you go up to your third eye and there's just a beautiful vision going on there. It's really, really strong. You're almost pushing too hard for it, but I understand why, because it's so present. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Like, I feel your inspiration. I feel the inspiration of what you see without even having it put into words. You make a very strong statement by supporting us this way every week. And you offer me a lot of respect directly by it. And I can see that it comes from this incredible vision you have. And I'm super grateful for you in that. And then, your intentions. Down in your solar plexus, there's a lot of lighter energy and then some really something heavy. That you have a core intention, you have a core commitment that you need to let go of. And I'd encourage you to be this simple. This is really scary, Kinsey. Everybody listen to how this works. It should be scary. It won't sound scary. I'm inviting you to trust that you have something that's essentially like you need to let it pass through your intestines. Let's put it that way. And it's trapped up in your solar plexus. You could choose to say anything that is waste, spiritual waste that's trapped in my solar plexus, I consciously choose to release this. And you can do it without knowing what it is. This is scary because it's this deeper surrender, and I promise you it can work. And it puts things into motion, and you're coming from a space where you're talking to your spirit and you're saying, I trust my own spirit. I'm just witnessing this, but I'm saying I trust my own spirit to release that which does not belong in my body anymore. And I let this go without knowing the impact. May it be graceful and obvious to me what steps I need to take. I invite you to consider making that prayer fairly regularly for a week and seeing what happens. That's a lot. I just gave you a ton. So you choose what you work with. I am very impressed by your presence in this, and you serve us all. Thank you. It's enough. Cool. I will get it. All right. Is there anybody else? Hey, how about that? 44 minutes. That time just flew by. Let me tune in because there's something else to say. I'm praying for someone who's suffering. I know where this person is enough to sense their suffering. I'm asking you to pray for this person. I'm imagining a line of light from their crown to their root. I am imagining divine love flowing through this channel at exactly the pace they can handle. I'm imagining a torus of energy around them, energy flowing up and down and down and up, all around them, like a protective shell and like the wings of a butterfly both. I'm imagining their energy field pushing away that which is not theirs, because this person is suffering a lot and they are bearing energy that is not their own. And I am asking that the love they need be present with them such that they can be held and witnessed, because they are bearing trauma and their suffering does not have to continue. They're bearing a trauma that has been denied. And this denial is an abuse. And this abuse makes them look sick. People who are bearing personal trauma that comes from collective trauma get cast aside by a society that doesn't want to face the trauma in themselves and in the world around us. And I am talking about one person, but this one person may be similar to someone you know. I am talking about one person, and I know that in the same way I can witness you and give a reading, when I pray for them, the prayers get through. And I pray for them that they may trust the love deep within themselves, and they're protecting somebody. They're protecting somebody, and I'm suggesting that they not. I'm suggesting that they do this, and they say, you must bear your own karma now. They are carrying karma that is not their own, that was inflicted upon them by a trauma that they still suffer from. And they can cast this trauma out, and they can pray for the witnessing and the healing to heal it. And I pray that this happens. I pray for the miraculous level of healing that is required for this to happen to them. It's enough. MKZ. I catch you, and I will give you a reading. I want to pause and just, I'll do it at the end. MKZ. You've already surrendered in a way that's awesome. Your chin is strong. If you don't know about the chin chakra, I encourage you to study it. By the way, welcome. I believe this is the first time we've said hi. Thank you for being here. You have already made the surrender that is most difficult. You need to celebrate that and respect yourself for it. It's the biggest missing piece in you. Your chin is strong and clear. You have a trust that's really awesome. Everybody and everything can be forgiving. When you make the choice to heal, you instantaneously do wonders to bring love into the world. No matter who you are, no matter what you've done, you have already made the choice to heal, and you've given your trust to love in a way that is working. You're frantically worrying about what to do. It's in your lungs. What to do. You need to chill. If you keep shaking a snow globe, it's always going to be running around with these snow things in the air. You need to chill. You need to celebrate that you've made the right commitment. Now settle into it and trust that divine guidance is always with you. I am a catalyst. I am honored to support you. When I am at my best, I spark you to recognize the divine guidance that's already with you. And I'm happy to be here to support you weekly until then. And if anybody wants, you can sign up for private sessions on the website. You need to chill the pressure to figure things out. It's almost unbearable tuning into you because of it. Like there's such a figure it. Down to your root. Again, your root is beautiful. Like you have some really awesome people around you. You have some really awesome people around you. Trust them. Looks like you're turning away from them, almost like just as things start to work, you're considering moving to India or something. It doesn't look like it's time for that to me. Stop trying to make a long-term plan in that regard. It's not coming through clearly. You're not getting the kind of clarity you'd need in order to make those kind of decisions. Right now, there's some really loving people around you. Connect with them more and appreciate them. Appreciation is medicine. There's some people who've supported you who don't seem necessarily like super evolved, so to speak, but it doesn't matter. They're really loving. And you could just spend time with them and say thank you. Sometimes that can be a higher vibe than like listening to my lectures for 20 hours in a row. Whoo! Go figure. Sitting lovingly, asking someone how their day and week have been because they're a really good person in your life. And it's just loving and appreciative to be with them. Not strangers, like people who know you is what I'm encouraging you. I know that that sounds simple, but if this influence of my guidance is a blessing to you, do it. I believe that this is the best step you can take this week to make things flourish in your life. Let's see if it works. Hey, Ryan, good to see you. I was just wondering where you were, man. Haldi, good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Yep, I'm still in the zone. Haldi, I wondered how you're doing. Hmm. It looks to me like you really want to be on a team now. You've been in a loner space, and it's very much time for you to feel apart. I'd encourage you to pray with your root. Here's the thing. When you decide to focus on a chakra, you magnetize what that chakra most wants. So then you can just watch what happens. You don't have to figure it out. There's something going on between your throat and your root. Like your throat is undermining your root. I think you need to calm down your throat. Like now's not really a time. It seems strange. Like I'm not getting something right. One second. Okay. Whoa. It's almost like 4 years ago you decided to write a book and you're still trying to write the book. You still think you're going to write the book. And it's like you just need to set this down. It's not time to communicate right now, and you need to be free from old plans. They may come to life in a new form, but you're going backwards. Like whenever you get a new range of energy, you're kind of going backwards and trying to fulfill some visions that come from an earlier time, and you're a different person now. So you need to allow your energy to recenter where you are. And you still have definite work to do communicating, but it's just your old vision is so out of sync with the actuality of who you are now that you need to just chill the throat. Focus on your root. Focus on your root and your chin. Your chin is just you've got the trust. You know how to do this. So breathe life into your root and start watching what happens. What draws you? What events draw you? What community circles, what communication draws you? What's in sync when you enliven your root? And I don't normally do this these days. I'm really trying to focus people on one chakra, but root to chin. Imagine this energy going from your root to your chin. What keeps the two in sync? Because there's a powerful potential for your root and chin to be in sync right now, Haldi. In fact, they are pretty much in sync. And if you just nurture it, it's going to spread this vibrancy to the rest of your system. But it's not currently spread out. So if you imagine it flowing from your root to your chin, and then imagine it extending from there, like the trunk of a tree feeding the rest of you. Really beautiful. Good to see you. Good to see you, Isabel. Welcome here. Thank you so much, Kinsey. All right, folks, let's tune in because there's something more to say. Ah, there we go. Ryan, that's what it is. Absolutely. Your mind isn't made up yet, but it's close. This is like week to week, Ryan. You are an evolution week to week, man. This is integrating. This is integrating. So you are the most vibrant version of you need to make up your mind. It's kind of cool. Literally, in your third eye, there's a struggle between not just choices, but ways of seeing. And I'm telling you, when I first look at you, it works. Your natural inclination is healthy, but then it's getting confused afterwards. It's almost like you're trying to draw a picture on top of a picture. So you need to identify, like, what's the first rainbow vision you're getting? Hold it. What steps can you take to ground that? Some simple steps. Don't make it complicated, because you are adding layers on top that confuse it. But the initial presence is really beautiful through your third eye. And heart, man, actually work with your heart. There we go. It's very effective. Whoa, your heart needs it though. You're containing a lot. So this heart mind coherence meditation, I don't know if you've used it. I love the one I made. It's based on the heart math. It's based on the heart math meditation. Same kind of stuff that Joe Dispenza and Greg Braden use. It's really powerful. You're generating intentional feelings of gratitude, love, appreciation, and compassion. And you're doing it as a practice. This is going to keep your mind in tune with your heart. You're so strong in your mind that you're capable of exploring everywhere. If you're honest with yourself, you really like it, but you're detaching. Like your head's popping off your body sometimes, and you need to recenter this connection. I would really encourage you to make a practice of it. They encourage people to do it 3 times a week for 3 weeks. I've done that, and it's really effective. It's not indefinite. You don't have to do it 3 times a week forever, but it's only 3 minutes. 3 minutes, 3 minutes. I would really encourage you to explore this, Ryan. That's a big commitment. I understand if you don't want to dive all the way into it, but that is what I see. And I think it's important that I'm inviting you into something that, it's not explicitly just mine here. This is something that a whole lot of people are working with right now, and it's base level health. It's how to keep your heart and your mind in coherence. And you have so much potential, and I believe this could be a real missing piece for you. It certainly has been for me. So I made a heart-mind coherence meditation that's 3 minutes, and you could practice it enough to just get used to it, or you could use it as much as you want. But I would really encourage you to work with that some. And by all means, try out other people's versions as well. At one point, I shared my heart-mind coherence meditation with the Heart Math Institute, and they've done research to demonstrate how powerful this particular meditation is. And I shared it, and they said, "You wouldn't believe this, but we just came out of a meeting where we were wondering how we could collaborate more with other kinds of practitioners. And yours is the first message I read after getting out of that meeting." I'm like, hey, it works. I'm in coherence with you. Pretty cool. Hey, what is this? A reunion of Dita. Good to see you. Yes, there is. I'm in a healing mood. It's good to see you, Dita. It's so funny I can say that, but I mean it. All right. Oh, hey, there's a real burden on your shoulders. So I'm being present with how to say this. Don't give up. There's a real burden on your shoulders. Don't give up. I would really encourage you to listen to the first half of this. It looks to me like you've taken on some pretty extreme burdens, and you've taken them on in a way that is unsustainable. The problem lies in your discretion, like where you learn to step back and take space and rejuvenate. You are consistently struggling too long, so you're getting drained and it ends up feeling ineffective. But this is one specific challenge that you could shift. Don't give up. This is in your shoulders, in your lungs. I'm sure this is a good place to rest and breathe. There's a morning yoga routine I just posted on Wild Chakra Yoga. I'd really encourage you to try it out. I honestly use it constantly. I use it several times a week in one form or another. Sometimes I shorten it. But I encourage you all to consider it. But Om Dita, your third eye, your vision of things right now, you've struggled so much with that it's like you need to chill it out. Like you're trying to reconcile things in your third eye in a way that it's like it's just exhausting. And I think less is more, like less energy on the mental struggle. And it all comes from your heart. And your heart is a beautiful, like, it all comes from your heart. And I can see you. It all comes from love. It comes from love in a very real way, in the realest, most present ways I can imagine. I see you. I know that's true. It is not more loving to burn yourself out. If you're walking across the country, walking 50 miles in a day is not a victory. It's unsustainable and you're going to pull your fucking ankle and you're not going to be able to do it tomorrow. You took on a big challenge. Warm it up. Like you gotta get more practical about what makes a sustained response to your calling possible. You're struggling too much in an ineffective way. And if you see a better boundary, if you commit to prioritizing seeing a better boundary of how much to do today, I'm telling you for a fact, 20 miles a day is it's the most intense pace that most super athletes can sustain. And a normal person can do it too. Normal people can learn to walk 20 miles a day, but you have to stay healthy. And that's the upper limit. You can't keep up a pace of more than that. And it looks to me like you're identifying with the days when you can go 50 miles. You can walk 50 miles in a day if you walk for 12 hours, but you can't do that for day after day after day after day. This is a metaphor, but it's a really good one for you. Don't give up. I believe in you. You can do these. Yes, you do. I love it. Bless you, Omdita. It's really good to see you guys. Haldi, Omdita. Thank you for being here. I'm glad you showed up near the end, Ryan. You guys are wonderful. Thank you for the likes. I do appreciate them. Thank you for the donations. Thank you so much, Kinsey. It means a lot. There's a final message. Thank you, Omdita. There's a final message here. Oh, okay. So I tuned into someone. This person contacted me in their dreams. I know who they are. They're suffering a lot, and for the most part, they just take on the suffering and bear it, and periodically they start screaming. And because they scream sometimes, they don't believe in themselves. They believe they're the worst evil. They believe they're the biggest problem. They don't trust themselves. And I'm praying that they learn to appreciate that in the moment, half a second before they start to scream, there is simply a recognition within them that they need a boundary. They need people to stop hurting them. They need to push away forces that are hurting them. And this is a true instinct. And I pray that this person learns to do this and reflect back upon, return to sender some negative energy that is being given to them and was given to them initially in a trauma. Because when we are traumatized in this life, we bear traumatic energy in relation to the people who we went through that trauma with. So if one person stabs another, that person who stabbed has an energetic exchange that's ongoing until it gets healed. This person is suffering, containing, dealing with negative energy that was inflicted upon them. And I support them in drawing a boundary with as much force and strength as is necessary and as little as is necessary. As gracefully as possible. You do not have to hate, but you get to say no. I support your right to say no. And yes, this applies to many other people. And if it applies to you or someone you know, let's pray for a wave of healthy no. Thank you all. Much love be with you and your family. The weekly witness question is, what are you working on this week? If you choose to presence the chakra I invited you to work on, I really would love to hear from you and hear about your response to that and your relationship to it. And if you choose to focus on something else, that's okay too. I want you to feel that our witness helps empower your intentions. And the powerful presence of the Wildflowerfire space is a great way to do that. So just by taking a couple minutes and saying, hey, I choose to build resilience in my life. This is what I need. I need to build more resilience in my life. I'm snapping at my family in a way that is not effective or healthy. I'm losing my center because I've been bearing too much in a fairly ineffective way. And I have something more to learn underneath that. So my intention this week is to work on my resilience and to become present with the ways in which I am losing that resilience, which it's not strong enough. And I'll share a better volley about it over in the Wildflowerfire space. Thank you, lifelong learner. I'm glad I caught that before you go.